I'm Stephanie Lemick, and this is Building Trauma-Informed Workplaces. If you are anything like me, the end of Q1 2024 definitely snuck up on you. And as you know, if you've been listening in to the podcast for a while, you know I am a big believer in self-reflection and goal setting. So since Q1 snuck up on me, or rather the end of Q1 snuck up on me, I would love to take this time on the podcast and do a little reflection and goal setting exercise with all of you. And I hope you find it helpful as well as you are navigating the end of the first quarter of the year. So, whenever I'm doing some reflection, whenever I am reflecting back on goals or performance, I like to start with a blank piece of paper. That can be a physical blank piece of paper, that can be a virtual blank piece of paper, it can be a blank scrap piece of paper. Have something that you can write on, but don't pull out your list of goals, your performance review, your accomplishments notes quite yet. We really want to start with a blank slate. We really want to start with reflection that hasn't been informed by other things you have written down. So go ahead and grab that blank sheet of paper. I would love if you would join along with me in this reflection. If you do want, I also have a worksheet available for you to download in the show notes as well. So you have your blank sheet of paper, or if you grab the worksheet, you have the worksheet. So we're going to answer 6 reflection questions on our blank piece of paper. And if you have the worksheet, those questions are already listed there for you. The first question: what are the highlights from the first 3 months of 2024? Our second question: what accomplishments so far this year am I the most proud of? Third: what didn't go as planned and why? 4: what relationships have meant the most to me so far this year? 5: who has helped you so far in 2024? And how have you helped others so far this year? And lastly, what are the lowlights or the biggest challenges you've faced so far in 2024? Go ahead, take a couple minutes, maybe pause this podcast and reflect on these 6 questions as you're thinking about Q1 of 2024. Remember, resist the urge to pull out your performance review, goal list, accomplishment list. Really just go based off your brainstorm in this moment and take a few minutes to really reflect. So once you've completed this reflection exercise, now you can go ahead and take out your goal list, your performance review, any performance reflection notes or accomplishments, however you kind of document goals, accomplishments, plans for your period of time you're reflecting on. And listen, if you don't have anything, that's okay. We all have to start somewhere. We're going to go ahead and just skip forward. If you're missing those previous goals or accomplishments list, you can skip these next 2 questions and keep them in mind for the next reflection you do. So as you look at your goal list and your reflection list, notice if you left anything off in terms of accomplishments, things that you wanted to achieve. Are there any big differences there in terms of something you did accomplish and maybe you didn't list as an accomplishment? Always the best check-in. Maybe you had a goal and you achieved it, but you forgot about it. Now you can add that back onto your accomplishment list. Next, think about how your goals and or priorities may have changed so far this year. Each of us works and lives in a dynamic environment, and things change. Things don't always go as planned. And part of the reason I like that blank page reflection so much is because it helps us understand the full picture and what we maybe accomplished that wasn't an initial goal, but how shifting priorities impacted what we were able to do and able to prioritize. So think through that and acknowledge that as you're comparing those two lists. Now that we've reflected and compared those two lists, reflected on the past 3 months or however long you're looking at, we want to go ahead and plan for the rest of the year, whether it is the rest of 2024 or if you just want to go ahead and plan for the next quarter specifically, you can use this exercise to do either. Again, this is where I think a blank piece of paper will be super helpful when we think about setting goals and planning for the next 3 months to next 9 months to next year. These questions are also in the worksheet if you decided to download it. So feel free to use that or go ahead and grab another blank piece of paper or use that second half of your first blank piece of paper. And we're going to answer 4 more questions. The first, what do I want to be true in 3 months that isn't true today? And you can adjust this time period for however long you're setting goals for. So if it's 3 months, 9 months, 1 year, think about it in that way. Next, what do I want to be known for? 3, if I could learn anything, what would I be most excited to learn or learn more about? And 4th, what work excites me most? I like to fill this in as a bulleted list. I like to take time and I like to reflect on it quarterly and then post it up on my bulletin board so I'm able to reflect on this. Take some time, reflect on these, maybe again, pause the podcast and come back for the rest of the activity. Really, this list is about finding your why and really getting down to the why behind your goals. So you're able to set better goals. And also, when things get off track, you can also go back and understand a clear point of the why. It can really be helpful when you need to adjust as things are changing throughout the next 3 months, 9 months to year. So once you complete this brainstorm with your goals, I actually really strongly recommend taking a break. Maybe stepping away, maybe you come back to it the next morning, but just give yourself some time to marinate and then come back and take a look at what you wrote. And then from there, use that list to build out some SMART goals. I wouldn't be a former HR executive if I didn't shout out SMART goals. And for those that aren't familiar with SMART goals, it stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based goals. So specific, you want to make sure your goal is specific and narrow for more effective planning. Measurable is you want to define what evidence will prove you're making progress, and then so you can reevaluate as necessary. Attainable, you want to make sure this is something you can reasonably accomplish in the time frame that you set for yourself. So for example, if you said, I want to get a college degree in 3 months, that's not a reasonable or attainable goal for that time period. Relevant, your goal should align with your values and long-term objectives. And that's where our brainstorm, our why is so helpful, so valuable here. And then T, time-based, we want to make sure we're setting realistic, ambitious end date for task prioritization and motivation. I myself, if I don't have an end date, if I'm not publicizing an end date, it can be very difficult for me to prioritize and finish things effectively. So T is a big one for me. That time bound is super helpful. So go ahead and then document your goals for whatever the time period is, and then make sure and keep these handy, whether it's in a drive on your computer, or maybe you print out or just have handwritten documents. So you're able to move forward and reflect the next time you want to check in, whether it's in a month, 3 months, check in at least every 3 months or a year. You don't have to make new goals every 3 months, but at least check in with how you're feeling, check in with your whys, check in with what you have accomplished and document that. Because a lot of times there are things we're doing and we're not noticing them because we're not checking back in. I know this was a quick hit podcast. I hope it was helpful for you to check in, think about your goals, reflect on Q1 of 2024. Hopefully, you are able to make time for some reflection, whether it is this practice or another one. And until next time, be well.